Hello guys, in this video we'll look at how spammers work. So spam actually is a very interesting as well as I would say a very technically challenging topic. So we'll actually make a couple of videos, and in the first one we'll actually just talk about spam basics, how is spam generated and how is it propagated around in the internet, and a quick few examples of how spammers actually do their dirty work. And then probably in a later series we'll also have a look at basically how spammers automate this entire spamming by using programmatic tools and so on and so forth. So let's move ahead in the presentation. A spammer actually goes ahead and spams using three simple steps. The step one basically is to harvest email address from various sources. We'll look at what sources the spammer could probably use in order to harvest these email addresses a little later. In the second step, what he's basically going to do is that set up a chain of email relay servers so as to obfuscate his origin and at the very same time to make the spam look like legitimate email. In step 3, he finally sends the spam emails using this set of email relay servers which is actually created or found in step 2. And of course this process actually continues as he harvests more and more email addresses and continues to set up more and more email relay servers. So now let's look at what are the most common techniques of harvesting email addresses. Now the most common of course is going to be mailing list posts as well as Usenet and so on and so forth, where the email address is exposed out into the open. And anybody can, for example, subscribe to a Yahoo group or a Google group and then spam the entire user base. The second thing is actually scraping the web pages. I mean, most of us have a mail to option, or even we embed our email address on our home pages, and it is very trivial to write a program, as we will see in a later video, to go ahead, screen scrape the web page and actually get the email address. The third is that whenever, for example, you register a domain, the domain registrant as well as administrative details generally contains the email address of the person who has registered the domain. Unfortunately, as this is out into the open, a spammer can very easily keep on doing Whois queries and find out email addresses of the registrants to various domains. Then one interesting way of harvesting email addresses is actually guesswork. And that is take a list of very common names and send emails to them. The ones which do not bounce back, 100% that in the destination domain there is a user by that name who actually has a valid email address. For example, even some of the common names such as John and Peter, when you can imagine, definitely there's going to be somebody called John at hotmail.com or John at google.com. The final one of course is a more sophisticated technique, and that is using email worms. So in this case, the spammer sends an email worm which infects the computer where the email is viewed and then extracts all the addresses from the address book of the victim and then sends itself to each one of those people in that address book. And basically the worm propagates forward as well as the spam it takes along with itself. Another interesting way email worms have been used is also to set up open email relays on those victim computers. Well, there are many more techniques. I guess these are the most important ones. To the domain tool site, which contains a lot of utilities for DNS and even such as Whois, tracer root, ping, and many such utilities. So we first want to find out that exactly what is the Whois information which is exposed of a person who registers a domain. So let's actually go to the Whois lookup place and enter a website, let's say securityfreak.net, and actually search for that information. So when the Whois information actually comes up, we'll see that domain tools actually provides a lot of interesting information about the destination site. It shows the thumbnail, it talks a lot about page relevancy and stuff like that. But let's scroll down, and from here onwards we can see that the Whois record starts. And if you notice, the person registered to is Vivek Ramachandran, and here is my Gmail address. So sadly, this email address is exposed to any spammer and all the guy has to do is probably to programmatically query Whois servers and find out the registrant of this domain. But now let's actually look at how a website can actually protect its identity from being stolen from a spammer. So in this case, let's try out another site, and this is my personal site called vivekramachandran.com. So the interesting part is you can just change the URL here and arrive at the Whois record of the other site. You don't really have to go to the front page. So now let's scroll down once again, and what we will notice is that in the registrant contact as well as in the administrative contacts, the email address is vivekramachandran.com at proxy.dreamhost.com. As you can see, my personal email address has not been exposed, and DreamHost is actually providing a proxy email address. Even if spammers use that, they will not really get to my real email address. So this is because some domain registrars such as DreamHost allow for anonymization of the registrant contact as well as the administrative contacts to protect the actual website owner from having his email harvested by spammers. So there is quite a bit of interesting information which actually comes with the domain tools package. I would strongly encourage you to have a look at many of these parameters and try and understand what all other interesting information you can find out. So for example, we can find out what kind of a server is being run, what is actually the IP address, and even for example from an SEO or a search engine optimization perspective, how does this site look like, the whole 9 yards, I guess. Well, that's all. Let's get back to the presentation.